If you're looking for the answers, I don't have that. But what I do have is a particular set of skills. Skills I've acquired over a very long career. Skills that make me a nightmare for people who mislead, misinform, or misrepresent the sports card industry. So if you don't do that, I'll let it go. That'll be all. But if you do, it's going to talk about you. Guys, welcome to another quick episode of the Sports Card Investigator. My name is Andy. I am the Sports Card Investigator, and I wanted to try to get a quick episode in and talk about two players. See, I get a lot of questions about my process, and so it was a good opportunity to give you guys and gals a glimpse of my thinking when it comes to specific players when things come up. And one of the things that I strive to do, I strive to predict what rookie's second-year player's card is going to do before it actually does it. Now, does it always work? No, of course not. But I try to give myself the best possible chance to succeed by doing all the research I can and using every possible piece of information at my disposal. I guess the easy way to put it is, I want to get on that train before it starts moving too fast and it gets away. Kind of like the old westerns where you see the cowboys jump on the train before it really gets moving. We want to be those cowboys. We don't want to be the cowboys slamming their hats on the ground because they missed it. Yeah, I know I'm old, but I like westerns, and who doesn't want to be a cowboy? But anyway, do we have any PJ Washington or Brandon Clarke collectors / investors out there? Full transparency, as always, I have a small position in both of those guys, and I consider them second tier type players. For the most part, these two guys are role players, second fiddles to the stars on their team. Not saying they'll never blossom into a star. By no means am I a PJ Washington or a Brandon Clarke hater. I like them both as players. I'm sure they are nice young men. But at this point in their career, they are what they are. But like all players I have positions with, I keep track of their careers and their development and their position and place with their team on a daily basis. It's important that we do that. It's how we succeed. And as I said in the past, and I will continue to say, that when I talk about players, this is not my opinion as it pertains to their position with their team or their professional growth. I look to other people that are close and in around the NBA that know much more about them than I do. So I wanted to give you some quick observations regarding these guys, pull back the curtain a little bit, let you know my mindset, some of the things that I have come across lately, and if these players that you have, maybe it'll help with your research or at least give you some things to think about going forward. Plus, I'll give you a little glimpse into my mindset, and I think the more we can see how different investors and collectors think and act in the market, the better off that we are. And it helps us because by doing so, we can sharpen our process. Now, in a previous video, I spoke to you guys about when there is a good time to sell players, and I mentioned things like milestones, all-star appearances, playoffs, or just really good games, or maybe just even a really good play, right? Well, for those two guys, or these two guys that we're talking about now, PJ and Brandon, if I may be so bold to call them by their first name, now is their time. It is their chance to enhance, say that 3 times fast, their chance to enhance their position by maximizing an opportunity that has been given to them. And if they do that, then they will enhance their demand and the price of their cards. Let me tell you what I mean. First, let's talk about PJ Washington. Have you guys noticed, you PJ Washington guys, have you guys noticed what's going on in Charlotte? Well, PJ is playing the 5 or center position. I know what you're thinking. I thought the same thing. He's 6'7". He's doing it. So I read tried to get as much information as I could, and I read some articles, and two of the articles that stood out to me were, one, it was called an early returns on PJ Washington at the center experiment. It isn't always pretty, but initial returns have been positive by a gentleman by the name of Jonathan DeLong. And another article that was written by Joshua Matthews that said, should PJ Washington start at center for the Charlotte Hornets? So remember, as I said before, I'll say it again, we always are looking for price enhancers on players that are not long-term holds. Now, if PJ is a long-term hold for you, then this is not going to mean much. But if he's a guy you're looking to maximize profits on, for you to sell him when the time is right, then these are the things that we look at. And real quick, don't be afraid to pull the trigger on a player. It's filled with regret. If your investment has surpassed a price that you're looking for, and you can take a profit that you have targeted, then you don't have to outsmart yourself by thinking a player is going to continue to rise in price. He very well might do so. But if you're happy with the profit margin, take it, grab it, and don't look back. That's my opinion. And the decision, of course, is yours and yours alone. Food for thought. Now, I'm not going to bore you with the articles or read them to you verbatim, but one interesting observation by the writer was when PJ Washington was stretched to the big man position. The lineup consisted of LaMelo Ball, Terry Rozier, Gordon Hayward, and Miles Bridges, and Devontae Graham coming in and out of the game. Obviously, they play two different positions, but he believes, James Borrego, the coach, is testing the strength of a small ball lineup, with Ball, Rozier, Graham, Hayward, and Washington starting, or a slightly bigger, kind of oxymoronic, right? A slightly bigger small ball lineup consisting of Ball, Rozier, Hayward, Bridges, and Washington. Another interesting fun fact that we should look at is over the Hornets' 4-game winning streak, the Hornets won 4 games in a row. That in itself is pretty great. PJ has averaged 33 minutes a game, 13.5 points, 3 blocks, and 6.5 rebounds. On January 9th, a couple days ago, actually 3 days ago, 4, I don't know what today's date is, he went for 22.6 blocks. So I said, he is getting run with this team, and he bears close observation because his card prices should start ticking up. And I looked today before I recording, and his prices are beginning to edge up. Okay? This is the type of information that we look at, have to keep a close eye on it, and I call it predictive intelligence. Okay? Is this a short-term experiment by the coach, or is this something that he's planning for the future? Time will tell, but now we kind of have a head start into his thinking. Let's quickly talk about Brandon Clarke. I like Brandon Clarke. I did a episode about Brandon Clarke and why he was doing really well last year and how I think he's going to make that leap. But let's reality check, guys. He is not off to the greatest start. So is it time to sell him? Jump ship? I don't know. Do we buy the guy because he's cheap now? Well, there's another great article. Again, this is all stuff that you guys can do, and it's just stuff that I do on a daily basis, called Buying and Selling 10-Game Grizzlies Sample Sizes. Basically, what's built into the last 10 games that the Grizzlies played, and it's by a guy named P.F. Fleming. And the author breaks down what I am talking about perfect. There's no reason for me to reinvent the wheel. This guy does it, and he knows better than I. And the article is basically written about, am I selling or am I buying? And one of the things that came up was Brandon Clarke's inefficiencies, and he's selling that. And one of the easiest early season trends for this guy was not to buy into Brandon Clarke's inefficiencies. He's not doing too well. Last season, Clarke was arguably one of the most productive rookies in NBA history, maintaining a true shooting percentage of 66%, was always going to be a tall feat, But his decline this year, his words, not mine, is simply mind-blowing. Give an example. Field goal percentage, 61.8, this year 46.2. Three-point percentage, 35.9, this year 26.1. Free throws, big indication, 75.9, this year 42.9. Now, the author of the piece really isn't concerned, and he believes that Brandon Clarke will snap out of it, and he goes into reasons why, and he makes sense. It's injuries, he's changing his shooting form. You can read the article. He goes into great detail, and that's what I really appreciate about these type of articles. They don't just tell you their opinion, they go into reasons why. And if you look at his statistics for the first 10 games of this year, even though it's a small sample size, they mirror last year. He's still shooting, his points, minutes, and rebounds are still around the same, even though his percentages have dropped. And also, Clarke was inserted into because of injuries, Clarke was inserted into the starting lineup about a week ago. So now is the time for him to make the most out of his opportunities. Because once these guys return from injuries, it really could affect his playing time and overall production, something we need to monitor as investors. So with that said, am I giving up on Brandon Clarke or PJ Washington? No, I'm not. But if there's an opportunity to capitalize on a reactionary market after they have a great game, and odds are that's going to happen, then I'm going to act accordingly. I think we all have to act accordingly in this business, this hobby. Both players, because of injuries, COVID, the circumstances around their team, have been given an opportunity to seize on possible career-changing moments. Now it's up to them to either waste that opportunity or hopefully to capitalize on it. Now, as always, I'm going to leave you with a quote from Tom Peters. Tom Peters says, his quote, "If a window of opportunity appears, don't pull down the shade." And that's all we're looking for. That's all that we do in this hobby, business, this industry. You look for opportunities and you capitalize on it. And that's what we have to do. So there you have it. A glimpse into my process. Two guys that I will be watching going forward. And that's what we have to do. So on the next episode, I'm going to go over some of the great comments, resolutions, and questions I received from my last episode, which has been phenomenal. Just an outpouring of questions, comments. It's just terrific. So if you like what you see, please hit the subscribe button, hit the like. Until next time, take care.